I am going to actually get started right now and dive in. So here's the handout. I have it printed out as well. And, I start out by telling you, that I grew up in Cyprus in Iraq, and that is how I really got this music into my DNA. And I found it incredibly healing and uplifting and also very real. There's a plaintiveness to Middle Eastern music that acknowledges that life isn't always easy, even though it's beautiful. So I feel like it's really ideal for healing harp contexts and healing music contexts in general, because it's a very real kind of music. And I'd love to know, what has inspired you to come here and learn more about Middle Eastern music. The harp actually had a big presence in the Middle East. It originated in Africa with the first humans and then migrated into the Middle East. So there's actually a precedent for having harps, santors in Middle Eastern music. So Kellen, don't worry, I'll save the chat as well. All right. So when I think of the Middle Eastern music, I think of these gorgeous tonalities. So for example, these kinds of scales. Just right away, so this mysterious sound and this calling kind of sound. And then of course the rhythms, they can be very, like the Sufi rhythms, very deep and kind of like a pulse of a human. So I'm really going just with a very free rhythm there, kind of a breath, or it could be more fixed. That one's called Baladi, and I'm going to show you that one as well. So just to give you a sense of the big two forks that I see happening in Middle Eastern music. So let's go straight into tonality. What was I doing there? Well, perhaps the most common chord or common scale you'll see in Middle Eastern music is called Hijaz. And Hijaz is named after an area in present-day Saudi Arabia. And this is what it sounds like. Now, for anybody who has your instrument with you, let me show you a quick way to get this. Start on E, and you're going to play all naturals except for your G. Your G is going to be sharpened. There it is. That's what gives that big pull. And so the formula of that is going to be a half step, 1.5 steps, half, whole, half, whole, whole. So you could find that anywhere. Now, for Donna, you have C and F sharp. Can you still play it? I think you might manually have to make one change, and what I recommend is just manually sharpening your G, just manually. And then you'll be able to do a whole bunch. Your other option is to flatten your B. So if you flatten your B and sharpen your C, you can base this entire scale around A. So A, B flat, C sharp, D, E, F, G, A. So this is a Guitarra Nova harp. This is made by John Wesley of California. So yeah, so a couple options there. And I will actually send you the formula for each of the modes that I want to look at in terms of half and whole steps, and the easiest ways to get them. I do have them on the next page of the handout. in some of the easiest ways to get them, as you can see here, but I'll give you a couple more options as well. Okay, so the sound, the sound of this scale, I just love it. And you'll find it all throughout the Middle East, Eastern Europe. There's a very common scale in in Eastern European music as well, and also in flamenco. So if you know this mode, Hijaz, you just have a bunch of stuff going on. You can just cover a wide swath of the world. So if you have your instrument with you, go ahead and try that out. Hijaz either in E with a G sharp, or how about trying Hijaz in A with either a B flat and a C sharp? With both B flat and a C sharp. Now you'll notice on the handout that I have Hijaz in D. So Hijaz in D requires that we use B flat, E flat, and F sharp. So the reason I included it in D is it's actually the most common key that they use in Middle Eastern music. So say you're going to play with an oud or some other Middle Eastern instrument, and you would want to be able to play Hijaz in D. So what does that look like? I'm going to have my E flat, F sharp, B flat, and there it is. So what do you guys think of that scale? What does it sound like to you? Go ahead and type in the chat if you have a chance. This scale can work really well in either slow music. So let me see which scale I'm actually in now. Let me do an E. So it can work for the very or it can be actually quite party music. So it's ultra flexible, which is why I love to share it. Yeah, Donna, definitely it's very common in Sephardic music. So Sephardic music is the Jewish Turkish music. So when the Jewish people were disgracefully expelled from Spain in the late 1400s, the Sultan of Turkey realized, wow, here is a group of incredible people. He wanted them to be part of his country, and he gave them free passage to Turkey. And to this day, there's a big Sephardic community, and they still speak a version of Spanish that is, it sounds quite old-fashioned to modern Spanish speakers because they became somewhat isolated and kept their language quite the way it is. And I had the amazing experience of doing a Sephardic concert in Bulgaria where I had a native Sephardic speaker singing and reciting the words of the pieces we were playing. So just gorgeous stuff. Yeah, exotic and dreamlike. Yeah. So this is a very spiritual, snake charmer. Definitely, you know, when we're teaching piano, for example, there's always in the method book a snake charmer song, and it's always using Hijaz. Yeah, yeah. So very easy to get this scale, and we'll look more at it in just a minute. So the second scale I'd like to show you is very similar. So it's going to be easy for you to get. All you need to do in addition is sharpen your 7th degree, the 7th note of your scale. So say from Hijaz. So here I am in Hijaz. Now I'm going to sharpen the D because the D is the 7th degree. Just adds a whole other color. And so this one has a little bit more of a searing quality to in my ear. So. And I'll sharpen it down here as well. So say you were doing Hijaz in D, you would sharpen your C because that's the seventh. Say you're doing Hijaz in A, you would sharpen your G. So again, I'll give you all the formulas. I'll send you them as half and whole steps as well. But very easy to get this scale, as you can see. And anybody who has a harp with them, do try this right now and let me know what you think about it. The next mode I'd like to look at with you, and the last one for today actually, is called Kurdi. And Kurdi is also known in Western music as Phrygian mode. So Phrygian mode was one of the favorite modes of Hildegard von Bingen. I wonder if anybody knows of her and her amazing work. She was certainly a marvelous healer. Her whole life was dedicated towards healing. And this is one of the modes that she writes in most often. So I was looking for modes to share with you that would cross actually a lot of cultures while definitely being very Middle Eastern, and Kurdi is certainly one of them. So let's take a listen. So what does that sound like to you? When I consider Kurdi, versus Hijaz with the sharpened G, again, Kurdi, it has a more gentle sound to me. You know, it has a more soft, cloud-like, pillowy kind of sound. And for Hildegard, this was considered a highly mystical key. And again, wonderful for healing contexts, especially ones where you're looking to go on a little bit of a journey together. You're perhaps working on some deeper material together. This is a very meditative. There can be a huge amount of space in this one, even one note. It has a slightly somber sound, I would say, but it doesn't sound tragic to me. So I feel like this really can fill out our healing music practice by addressing those somewhat more complicated feelings, you know, but in a gentle way. So additional tuning for Kurdi is any natural minor scale with a flattened second. So say we're in A minor, A natural minor, so all white keys. Oh, sorry, I still have my D sharp from Freygish. So there's our natural minor. I'm going to flatten my B because I was in A natural minor. There it is. And it may seem that second degree being flat is very unusual, maybe a little shocking, but listen to it against the left-hand drone, which is of course going to be an A. It feels actually quite natural, I think. I hear so much spaciousness in this scale. I feel like it really invites a whole degree of exploration that some other scales don't open the door to quite as much. So any natural minor scale can be turned into Kurdi by flattening the second degree, flattening the second note of the scale. Okay, so that's part of your tonality section. That's this part of the handout. Let me know if you have any questions about it before I move on to some examples. So here are some written out versions of Hijaz and Kurdi. Now remember, with Freygish, all you have to do is sharpen the seventh note on Hijaz. So I didn't write that out. And by the way, in Freygish, you can toggle between having that sharpened seventh and not having it. So one octave, for instance, could have the sharpened seventh degree and the other doesn't. And that creates yet another layer of interest, another layer of healing potential. Okay. I also wrote out in just letter names. So for people who aren't so good at reading on the staff, you can see that I've written out with letters as well. So the spelling of Freygish, there's a great question, Jean. There's many spellings of it, right? Because a lot of these languages are actually written in different scripts entirely. So there's some debate about what letters to put which. So you'll see quite a few spellings of Freygish, but the one that I have here is Freygish, Freygish. And that's on the handout as well. But you'll see it spelled with an A and things like that. So, okay, how to use these modes. If you're not familiar with them, here's a fun trick. Okay, so I'm going to go into, where shall I go? I'll go into Hijaz. And in this case, I'm at Hijaz in E. It doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to give an example. So I'm going to play a song for you, and I know that you know it. I want to see if you can recognize what it is. Can you tell what I was playing? I was playing the shape of a song that you definitely know, but because I had tuned my harp, Hijaz, it sounds completely different. So this is a really cool trick for getting into these modes. Should I tell you what it was? It was actually Mary Had a Little Lamb. I know that sounds crazy, right? So here we go. Right? So it's only 3 notes, so it's easy to play, right? But instead of having E, F sharp, G, E major, I take down my F sharp. So I have E, F, G sharp, and suddenly, can you hear it? So don't worry that you don't have a huge repertoire of Middle Eastern music right now, because you can actually take songs you already know, play the contour of that song, but have your instruments set up so that you're playing in either Hijaz or Kurdi. Let's hear Kurdi in Mary Goes to the Middle East. Maybe I'll take it up an octave. So how's that going to work for you? What do you think? I find that, we already know a lot of things in our fingers. It's just a question of putting them into these scales. So what about Twinkle Twinkle? Let's do Twinkle in Hijaz. So I highly recommend using this method. And then, of course, improvisation. For many of you are very used to improvising. It's going to be all the same techniques that you normally use, except you might do a little bit less chord work. And we'll talk about that in just a little while. And, I would love to just give my 2 cents on improv. I have written it here in the handout because I've taught improvisation to a lot of people, especially a lot of people who thought, I can't improvise. And the thing is, improvising is very natural. And by the way, I was one of those people. You know, I had an extremely classical education until my early 20s. When I was planning on being a concert pianist, but my performance anxiety was too strong, and that's a whole other journey. But I had the very strict classical upbringing, and I'm grateful for a lot of it. But at that time, it made me believe I couldn't improvise. So I do it all the time now, and I know that you can too. And I just want to suggest that, you know, getting back to the basics of human communication is a great way to think about improvisation. So for instance, how do we hold a conversation? So let me get again into Hijaz. Okay. So I'm going to have a question. And now maybe I want to answer it. Question, answer. All day long, really, we're practicing musical phrasing when we're speaking. So I just want to empower you to think about, you know, how do we speak? How do we sing? These are just wonderful ways to get very direct with your improvisation. But that could be for another time. Let's go right on to ornamentation now. Now, because Middle Eastern music is not so much based on chords, like I just referred to, ornamentation becomes a really, really big deal. So let me show you a little bit about this idea that Middle Eastern music is not chord-based, it's not vertical. So the way that we may tend to go, you know, 1, 4, 5, 1. A lot of chords like that, a lot of our pieces in Western music, 80% of pieces will be made up of those primary chords. Now, in traditional Middle Eastern music, this is not the case at all. Instead, there's more of a tonic, a home note that just gets held the entire time throughout. You'll hear this also in Indian music. So there would be a drone, and then on top of it, you're creating all this decoration, you're really working your melody, you're working your rhythm. You're not really working chords the way that chords drive music in Western music. So again, Western music has this vertical kind of chord orientation. Think about how it looks on a page, for example. So it's vertical. Now, Middle Eastern music is horizontal. So it's the development of that line, which I think is part of that pull that we feel from it as well, that it's this thread that you keep following. So just to give you a little example, on the handout of the music that I gave you, on the third one, Hijaz Ilahi, what if I do it with just a drone in the left hand, E only? This is an E Hijaz. And if I have only E the whole time, it's fascinating that way. And I didn't even do any ornamentation, hardly at all on that. So I didn't necessarily think, here are two chords, right? E, A. I didn't actually do any of that. That's too Western sounding. I'm going to just stick on the E the whole time. Here's Western. Right? Big contrast. So ornamentation becomes a really wonderful tool for us to develop our melodies, since we're not falling back on chords to help us out. So I have on the handout a few ornamentation ideas for you. Now, the very first is echoes. And echoes are used all the time in Middle Eastern music, and you'll either echo up an octave or down an octave, usually up. So to go back to Mary. So Mary had. So, and then up here, echo. Here's my ornament. It's so simple, this idea of doing an octave echo, and yet it's so effective. And again, creates that very spacious sound. So let me do it now in Kurdi, so in Phrygian mode. So now the melody sounds like, and so here I go. Just beautiful. What if I echoed an octave lower? Of course, I was still in Hijaz for half the harp. So echoes, very, very simple. And you can add those right into your pieces immediately. Let's say I'm doing it on Twinkle. So, because I believe in showing, not telling. So I'll go back into Hijaz. So twinkle, 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 twinkle. Echo. It just works great. So have fun with the echoes. Does anybody have any questions right now on what we're doing? How is this all sitting with you? I know I'm giving you quite a bit of information, but at the same time, I feel like it's quite natural. You know, this is very ancient kind of music, and it developed, you know, out of natural impulses. So I don't feel like we're actually talking about we don't need a lot of theory or something about that. It's actually quite direct and heartfelt. Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. And I think Nuno is it Christina? Catherine. Yeah, Catherine. Thank you. Good. I just want to make sure everybody's on board. Yeah, Catherine. With that, I'm not going too fast, too slow. So let me show you the second ornament. Here it is on the handout. This one right here. And those are the fill-ins. Oh, good, Cheryl. Yeah, great. Hanging in there. Good, good, Donna. Good. If you need any clarification, let me know. So with fill-ins, that's where if you have a gap in between melodic notes, you can just fill them in with steps. So Twinkle is a great example of that, right? So twinkle, twinkle, that's a whole fifth. Well, I got all these notes in between. So very, very Middle Eastern to do that. So what did I do? I went E, and then I placed F, G sharp, A, up to B. So again, my melody notes are E, E, B, B, and I have a gap. You can see the gap in there, but I'm going to fill it in. Now, here I go. And right there is my, my fill-in opportunity. This happens all the time in Middle Eastern music. So let me take a look at Hijaz Ilahi again, our example on our score. So that's the third song that I shared with you. So that's a fourth. I have an opportunity to fill that right there. I only have two notes to fill in. It's not that exciting. It's really nice when there's a big, big gap that you can just, a big, delicious gap. But that's how simple that is with the fill-ins. Yeah, yeah. So, oh, Donna can't find her worksheets. Yes, there's a link to them in your emails. Yeah, I sent them a couple times by email. And I will send them out again, don't worry. And again, you know, a lot of this music, of course, all this music was taught by ear. So the way that we're learning it right now, where I'm showing you just a little bit of a score, but mostly demoing it by ear, this is actually the traditional way to learn this music. Putting this into Western notation is even slightly bizarre. Nonetheless, I find it useful to have it written down, but don't worry, Donna. Yeah, you don't read music that well anyway. Great. You know, then you're really, really going to be enjoying this because you're not so hung up on the page. That was something that held me back, you know, was I was really glued to the page. It took me a long time to wean myself from it. So actually you're in good shape for this type of music, Donna. Oh, great. Thanks, Kelly. She emailed to Donna. Superb. Okay, so we had the echoes, right? So echo up an octave. We could echo down an octave. Then we had the idea of fill-ins. So we're looking for nice big gaps. And then the last one is what I call a crying seconds, because they have this kind of poignant pulling sound. And that's the third one right there. I left, by the way, that one open staff so that you could just write in any ideas or notes that you have for yourself. And I think I did that, yeah. I did that for the other score as well. So you see a blank score, just if you feel inspired. Crying seconds. So the sound of those is very, very common in Greek music, this one, as well as the Eastern European music, definitely in Middle Eastern as well. So what am I doing? Well, basically, I'm just doing these grace notes. So here I've got my thumb on an E, my 2 on D, and I just go for it. And I go pretty aggressive to get that poignant sound. Now, it depends on your context, of course. If you're feeling like your client needs to have a little bit more of a gentle sound, you're not going to be quite as aggressive. So just it's got this kind of light sound to it when you do that. Now, the way that we get this effect is by walking down. So that was E and D. Now it's D and C. Now it's C and B. Now it's B and A. See what I mean? So it's just, it's the idea that you're doing a bunch of them that gives that crying sound. Just one is beautiful, but that's not any different than in Celtic music. So by having consecutive crying seconds, as I call them, that's when you start to get that Middle Eastern flavor. For instance, we could do the crying seconds on the second part of Twinkle. Did you hear that? Right? Kellen is laughing. So normally it's, and instead, right there. Okay, so Donna, let me do it a little bit louder in the mic. Here's with no crying second. Now I'm going to do the grace notes on it. So I'm doing the note above my melody note and then the note itself. Can you hear that? So instead of, I am, again, that was pretty aggressive. I wanted to demo it so that Donna could hear properly. You may find you want to be a little bit lighter. And that's kind of a whispering effect. Again, this sort of mystical, spacious quality that you couldn't necessarily say, oh, that's a bunch of grace notes, but something is happening. You know something. Just something a little magical is happening. So those are 3 ornaments that I just adore using. Here they are on this page. That's page 6 of your handout. And have fun with them. You can plonk these in just all sorts of places in your songs. Use them in Celtic songs, use them wherever. Of course, you can also change your Celtic songs into one of these modes and then use the ornaments on and sound completely Middle Eastern. Okay, so now let's move on to chords. I know I said we don't use chords in Middle Eastern music, and we don't really. But there is a certain progression in the left hand, a certain combination of notes in the left or the bass that can create a sense of harmonic movement. They're not triads. We tend to avoid 3-note chords in Middle Eastern music. Can you hear how Western that sounds? We tend to leave out the middle note and have open fifths instead. So here is the progression that you will find quite a lot in Middle Eastern music. I almost feel like it's the home note just being commented on rather than big harmonic changes. Let me show you what it is. So it's basically E, in this case E, up to F, down to D, back to E. I'm circling my E note. Now, if you were in Hijaz in A, you would be circling A. So the pattern is tonic, step up, skip down, come back home. Now, if this sounds like flamenco, absolutely. They use this all the time at flamenco music. So let me show you a little bit of an improv using this bass line. So E, F, D. Make sense? This is also known in Western music as the Phrygian cadence, but you don't need to worry too much about that. It's the sound that matters, really, right? So your home note, a step up, skip down, and come back home. Now, say that feels really, really comfortable. You can make all of those fifths in the bass. So it's going to be E and B. It's going to be F and C. D and A. Take it down an octave. How about splitting the fifth? Did you hear the crying seconds right there? So this is a wonderful progression that has a lot of movement to it. How's that one working for you? Does that make sense? So I put it on page 7 where we're saying chords because it kind of functions like a chord progression, but it's not a true chord progression, if that makes sense. And notice you can also reverse the pattern. So it could start on E and then go down to D, up to F, and back home. And how compelling is that? You could write a whole symphony based on that. You know, there's just so much pulling and propulsion. So Gina's asking, what do I mean by splitting the fifths? So when I was playing, and I'll show it on this hand so you can see it easier, when I was playing left hand fifths, so I was playing E and B, this is blocked there at the same time. If I split them, it just creates a new rhythmic element. It's exactly the same notes. But listen to the difference. Here I'm going to do blocked fifths. And I had 2 notes on the right hand. Now I'm going to split. It just adds a whole other layer of interest. So if you're building up an improv, you may start with just a low single note, an E. F, D. Maybe you're going to turn them into block fifths now. Now split them. Etc., etc. So does that make sense, Jean, in terms of splitting the fifths? So it's rather than, okay, great. You're welcome. Now, because there tends to be this drone that goes throughout the piece as a tonic note that rings on and on, sometimes it's fun to bring in extra help. And there are apps you can use for that. There's one that I like called iTabla. And what you can do is it looks like this. I'll explain it a little bit more. Then you click on this sitar-looking instrument. And then you choose what note you want. And I'll have E, because we're talking about E a lot today. And then here are the little instruments here. Click on, and that'll just keep accompanying you. Probably sounds awful through Zoom. So this provides a drone that just keeps on going. And because you've got this bed that you're working on, then it gives you a lot of freedom to play on top of that. Probably it sounded dreadful through Zoom, which is what we're on right now, the platform, because it compresses the sound. But in real life, it sounds beautiful. And what it is an Indian, what's called tanpura. Looks like a lot like a sitar, and it just keeps on going the whole time. And in Indian music, this is very, very common. Yeah, it's a lot like a shruti box. The shruti box is pumped, and the tanpura literally looks like a sitar, but it's held upright. And the person who plays it during the concert, they're just doing the drone the whole time. This could go on for like hours. Sometimes they fall asleep. And meanwhile, the soloists, are just going completely bananas. They're just and tabla and everything. But the whole idea of the tanpura is just this drone without even a rhythm to it. Yeah, so it's very similar to a shruti box. Now, if you want something a little bit more Western sounding, let me see if I can share my screen here. The cello drones are superb. Let's see, here they are. I will share this for you. And I've given you the link in the handout here. Let's see. So this is a cello drone in A. And what, oh, Donna likes to sing with the shruti box. Yeah, gorgeous stuff, gorgeous. So when that cello drone goes on, you can play on top of that as well. And, either improvise or play known songs, but within one of our new keys, one of our new modes. Lots of options. So the cello drones on YouTube are actually for cellists to practice along with so that they learn how to stay in tune. But we can use them for a very artistic purpose. Now, the source that I gave you here for iTabla, the app that I gave you, make sure that you actually click on the iTabla Lite version first. So you can try it out and see if you like it, because the app itself is very powerful, but it's quite expensive. So try out the Lite version first. The Lite version will only last for like, I think, 2 minutes. It only lets the drone go for a little while. Okay, any questions before we move on to rhythm? So here's rhythm. So that's page 8 of our handout. Yeah, great. Great, everybody's looking good. So in Middle Eastern music, we tend to think of the low notes as the dooms and the high notes as the tick. So if you think about a drum, doom, doom, tick, doom, doom, tick. For us on our instruments, that basically means low, low, high. So low, low, high. So doom, doom, tick, doom, doom, tick. So I wanted to show you 2 or 3 Arabic rhythms. Baladi is the most common one, baladi, and it goes doom, doom, tick, 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 doom, tick, 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 tick. And how it's written out here, it's actually quite a nice visual. It's not too hard to see. So low, low, high, 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 low, high, 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 high. Okay, so it goes low, low, high, 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 low, high, 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 high. And the way I recommend learning this is tapping it out. Low, low, high, 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 low, high, 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 low, low, high, 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 low, high, high, and even vocalizing it like that. Now, if I were to do it on the harp, low, low, high, 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 low, high, 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 doom, doom, tick, 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 doom, tick, 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 tick. Let's go up to F. Doom, doom, tick, 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 doom, tick, tick, tick. Down to D. Doom, doom, tick, 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 doom, tick, tick, tick. I mean, this is such a compelling kind of sound, isn't it, really? So that's the baladi. And how does that feel to you guys? Does that seem clear enough? Doom, doom, tick, 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 doom, tick, 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 tick. And it's on this score, as you can see on page 8. It's the very first example only, just that first measure. And it would repeat over and over. Now, say you're already really comfortable with this, with baladi. You can actually, for the tick, 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 the high stuff, you can start playing different notes rather than just the drone. Because right now I was doing drone, 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 fifth, 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 fifth. But I could do notes of the scale. So drone, drone. That was my tick, 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 doom, tick, 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 tick. So that's a more advanced technique. So let me just leave you with that idea. First, try it out even with single notes. And you know, this could be like a meditation for you, where you're really just enjoying it, perhaps even much slower. Do, do, tick, 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 do, tick. What's the pull? Really feel the dooms. Those are what are driving the thing. Do, do, do. And you can do it quite gently, quite peacefully, but it's definitely got a sense of a rhythm, a movement, a journey. So I would use it in those kind of healing contexts where you're perhaps going on a guided meditation. Perhaps you'll use this rhythm very slowly when you are in training with the breathing of your patient, your client. Yeah, see what's being called for. The next one I'd like to show you is very simple. It's called Maxum, and that's the second one on this. Second measure right there. And it is doom, tek, 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 doom, tek, 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 doom, tek, 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 doom, tek, 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 doom. See that little end? Tek, tek, doom. That's what's getting us back into the doom. Remember, the dooms are the big deal. So here I go with this. Doom, tek, 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 doom, tek, 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 tek. Make sense? In some ways, this is easier, Maxum, I think, than Baladi. Maxum is, to me, slightly less compelling than Baladi. I have to admit, I love the doom, doom that happens in Baladi. So have fun with these. You know, these are so cool. You can use them as purely rhythmic, doom, 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 or have the left hand be the doom, doom, and the right hand is playing the rhythms, the tek rhythms, but playing different notes within your mode. And then, of course, free rhythm is a huge deal in Middle Eastern music. And that's going to be just the same as the free rhythm that you play in Western. It's going to be very much a natural kind of pulse that's happening, but not a regular beat. You know, doom, doom, banana. I could put a metronome on that. Not that I want to, but I could. And when you're going free rhythm, you're talking about something completely different. But there's still a pulse. It's not random. And one of my favorite ways is to follow my breathing when I'm going with free rhythm. So for example, I'm breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in. And that was the breathing out part. So there is a sense of push and pull still in free rhythm. It's got this kind of very slow bellows-like feeling. It's not just... I mean, that's just not, that's random. So free rhythm isn't entirely untethered. It's tethered to the breathing. And for many, breath is at the heart of healing. So I think by using all these techniques that we're covering today in free rhythm is an incredibly inviting experience for the people that you're working with to go deep within and also feel supported at the same time, so that it's less scary to look inside. Okay, so let's do some examples. Let's do Mary again, back to Mary, and I'll do Mary in straight rhythm. Hijaz Mary. Now I'll do free rhythm Mary. And for that, you know, I was really seeing how I was breathing and I was listening to the song, you know, where does it want to hang out? right there. I don't need to plow on. I can let that hang. Give it space. And I lingered on that bottom note. Right there. So there's an example of free rhythm. And lastly, I shared some songs with you. I have the scores right here. And I wonder if any of you had a chance to look at them together. Let's do that. Let me give you a little context on these songs. The very first one is called Ahava, which means love. And it was written by Bon Singer. Bon Singer is one of the greatest Eastern European style singing practitioners in America. She sings on one of my CDs, and I used to live in Bulgaria. And this Bulgarian singer said to me, "Who is that Bulgarian singer? I've never heard her. She's amazing." I'm like, "Yeah, she's from Brooklyn." So this is a song written by Bon, and it's representing Jewish music, which of course is part of the Middle East. And you know what? I have a typo on it. I'm so sorry. For the A, it's a capital A. It should be A minor, small a. I actually transposed it. This is usually in F minor, but that's not a harp-friendly key. And so I transposed it to D, but forgot to. So please make that A minor. And I will get out of Hijaz and show you what this song sounds like. This is a great piece to work as a round. You can play it with other musicians, and the round would start at every single measure. There's an opportunity. And that's it. That's the song. So it's a beautiful little chant. A lot of Middle Eastern music is very short like that, and the idea is you're going to develop it. You're going to improvise on it, and you have different types of ornaments and different repeats. So just that simple. So this is actually in the natural minor, which in Turkish music is called busalik. So I chose this because I do feel like it's pretty hospital and healing contexts friendly. Now, of course, you can change this into Hijaz. And if I do that, let's see what it sounds like. I'm just going to keep a D in the left hand. I'm not going to do the chord changes, because remember, in traditional Middle Eastern music, we don't do that many chord changes. Totally works. I actually went down to C when it said C, because again, that notes in the bass that are just a step away from the tonic usually sound good in Middle Eastern music. So there's a fun one. Now, Harmony is written by Nima Hekmat, who is a wonderful Persian composer and a santur expert, dulcimer, Persian dulcimer. And this is a piece he wrote called Harmony. So let me show you this. Make sure I'm in the right key. Harpists know what I'm doing. lovely, lovely song, right? So sweet. So, you know what? Kellen, do you mean the Dorian mode, the Ahava? I'll get back to you on that. I'll wait for your answer. Okay, and the harmony actually can only be played as a natural minor, buslik. And then the next one is Hijaz Ilahi, which I've been playing for you, a traditional Sufi chant. And this piece actually is found throughout the Middle East, also in Sephardic music. So let me do it with just a simple E bass. So this is an E Hijaz. The MP3 that I sent you today actually uses this chant as the basis of the whole composition. So this could also become Kurdi. I could take away that G sharp. Much more gentle kind of sound. Yeah, yeah. Oh, Kellen, it sounded Dorian. The first piece sounded Dorian. Yes, it definitely is minor, but it certainly sounds, it has Dorian elements to it. When you play the full chords with that song, then it becomes apparent that it's in the minor. But yes, you could definitely make a case that it has many Dorian elements, quite right. And then finally, the last one on the sheet is Dorme, which is a Sephardic lullaby, meaning sleep. And again, let's go into the natural minor for that, busalik. Just such a beautiful song. That one can be turned into Hijaz. And so I'm going to just stick on the A for that one in the bass. So sometimes when you do the switch, it seems kind of shocking at first, but let me play that to you again in Hijaz. So usually give songs a couple chances when you run through the key change. Donna thinks that, yeah, this one's your favorite. Yeah, this is so beautiful. I only wanted to share 2 songs with you, to tell you the truth, but I was like, I have to include Dorme, and then I really want to include harmony. So there you go. This one also can go into Kurdi. So So yeah, good question. What on the score is this major minor? this thing. This, a big capital M and then a small m, it means you can play the E chord if you decide to do triads on this piece. You could do it either major or minor. It works both ways. Now for harpists, we tend to not have that much flexibility regarding changing from major to minor within the same song. We tend to be set. But you can choose one or the other. And then for other instrumentalists, they can play around with going major or minor within the same song on that E. Very cool stuff. Okay, so for all of the pieces that I chose for you, you can apply all the techniques that we looked at today. We did a lot about the tonality, so working through Hijaz, Freygish, and Kurdi. Applying them to these songs, for example, we could change their modes. We could play them just as they are. They're wonderful. We can accompany, we can improvise in the modes that I taught you today. Again, Hijaz, Freygish, and Kurdi. Then we looked at ornamentation. We had our idea of the echoes, the fill-ins. So there's Twinkle Twinkle, I can fill it in. And then finally the crying seconds. And we had the Twinkle Twinkle with the crying seconds. Actually, let me get back in the right key. Totally works. Then we talked about the idea of the chords that we actually can move around the tonic, either up or down. But we tend not to do big chord changes. So let me get in the right key. Okay, like for instance, that immediately sounds a lot more Western, right? That was a 1-4-5 progression. Yeah. So, and finally we talked about rhythm, our dooms and our techs. So baladi, doom, doom, tek, 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 doom, tek, 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 doom, doom. Remember the dooms? The dooms are the big deal. Doom, 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 boom, doom, doom. And then we learned maksum. Doom, tek, 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 doom, tek, 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 doom. It's got that little tek, tek at the end to bring us back to the doom. Now, and then of course we talked about free rhythm. Free rhythm is a big deal in what we do in our healing music contexts. So that is everything that I wanted to cover today. You guys did great. Oh, thank you, Kellen. Yes, I'd be happy to do a follow-up webinar to reinforce and offer new songs and ideas. Absolutely, yeah. I feel like there's just a world, isn't there, in this music? Just a world of opportunity, and as we get deeper into the human experience and bring out all those different facets, the healing goes deeper as well. And this is a particularly good time to bring world music into our healing music contexts, as we want to embrace more and more. So, oh, good. Yeah, I'm glad, Donna, that you enjoyed it. Good for a beginner harper. Good. I really wanted to make sure this was not too complicated for a beginner harper. And one of the great things about Middle Eastern music is it's ear-based. So all of it really makes sense, intuitively in a lot of ways. Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, good. Yeah, let me know what you guys do with these ideas. I always love hearing back about how people are owning these for themselves, what they come up with. Good, Kim. I'm glad you're excited. Yeah, to start using these techniques. They're so usable. Yeah. Oh, good, Catherine. I'm glad this was very accessible. Yeah. Aw, thank you, Donna. Yeah, I love sharing this. Yeah, I love sharing. Oh, wow. Thank you, Jean. Yeah. Yes, great. Yes. I will also, got to remember to save the chat. And then I'll also send you the formula for all of these modes, like the whole and half step formula. I know you can figure them out yourself from the score, but you know, I think it's just nice to have. So I'll do that. Okay. It's been great hanging out with you. And any last minute questions of any sort, you can also email me. My email is diana@dianarowan.com. So let me type that in so you can see it. That's the right spelling. Good. Well, I know you all have busy days. Catherine, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Donna, I am in Berkeley, California, Northern California. So yes, I know you all have busy days and you want to get along with your day. So I will leave you now, but do stay in touch. And I look forward to next time. And I look forward very much to hearing what you do with these amazing techniques. Yeah. Bye, everybody.